Let's speak to the MK Party's national spokesperson, Nhlamulo Ndhlela. Nhlamulo, welcome back to SABC News. So the motion failed a few hours ago. Where to next for the MKP? What's your next step?
Well, to begin, I don't think it's a matter of whether the motion failed or not. I think more than anything else, this was a motion of no confidence that was aborted. We didn't even get to vote. And I think that's one thing that we need to alert and make South Africans aware of. We requested a motion of no confidence by way of a secret ballot. Now, this comes off the back of threats, by the way, that of SMSs where our members were threatened early this morning about this motion of no confidence. And obviously for fear of their lives, and by virtue of the fact that, as per some of these speakers have said, that KZN is notorious for political killings and political violence. They went and opened up a case. We released a statement to this effect, and we requested to the Speaker of Parliament in this case to say, take into consideration the dynamics, the political danger that our members face by virtue of this vote of no confidence motion. It only is the best route and the best solution that we have a secret ballot for this vote of no confidence motion. Mm-hmm. It's not unreasonable to request, especially in light of the fact that our members' lives are at threat. Now, that's not only the issue. We know very well that there are members also within these other political parties, even the same ANC, that would have been willing to vote with us had it been a secret ballot. That's a fact. Okay. But because of the fact of her wanting to toe a political line and now wanting to use as referenceability and bastardize case law so that she seemed to be protected in terms of her ensuring that she toes party line, that's exactly what happened. She didn't make that decision on the back of the will of the people of KZN, right, who from day one have wanted the uMkhonto weSizwe party to govern as the majority party in the province. And it is uMkhonto weSizwe's rightful, through the people of KZN, responsibility and elected responsibility to govern KZN.
Nhlamulo, we've got about 3 minutes before we have to wrap up this hour, so a few things that I want to pick up on from what you said. Firstly, just lastly, you say the KZN people wanted the MKP to govern the province, but in all fairness, they didn't want any of the political parties. They didn't give you or any other party an outright majority to be able to do that on your own, right? So that is why we're sitting with a government of provincial unity. But on your hang on a minute.
I think
it's true though, because if you had Nhlamulo, if you had an outright majority, you would have installed a premier soon after the election because you would have had majority of the vote.
Hold on a minute. Finding is that we are having to now table a motion of no confidence off the back of the fact that the elections were rigged. Let's not forget that. And people tend to forget the fundamental issue here. MK Party should be governing KZN. Okay. But you can tell, based on the numbers and how it was orchestrated, that MK would get enough percentage to garner 37 seats, EFF to garner 2 seats, and then obviously to create a scenario such as what we're faced with today.
Let me ask you my next question then. Let me ask you my next question, because unfortunately the nature of this is such that it's not going to be a one-way conversation. I have to ask you the questions and you have to respond. Next question.
Well, in most cases you guys do the same, but anyway.
Hold on. You are claiming ultimately, even in your statement, that today, what happened today, the way things unfolded, ultimately the motion not succeeding, you're blaming the conduct of the Speaker of the Legislature, correct? So if you feel that the way in which she decided on the issue of this vote not being held through a secret ballot, what are you going to do? Are you going to take legal steps to challenge the validity of the vote in the way that it was ultimately done?
Well, what vote are you referring to? And I keep saying to you, there's no vote. Who went and voted? No one voted.
Well, there's
no one voted. And I think that's who? Who voted?
So what are you going to do about it? Because you're saying there was no vote. So what do you do about it?
And also another key element to the South Africans, because there's a misconception that's been created, a narrative that uMkhonto weSizwe lost a vote today. We never lost any vote. There was not even a mace there present for us to even vote. We requested a secret ballot and we requested the Speaker to give us an opportunity to also make submissions. She never gave us that. But because of her arrogance and the mandate she was given by the same, by the way, member of the ANC who was speaking to you right now, because we know that that case law comes from him to try and conjure up a narrative to say that this is in the will of the people. There's no such of will of the people. The will of the people would have been a secret ballot where uMkhonto weSizwe was going to vote out this GPU, which is a coalition of rejects. They've been rejected by the majority of people in KZN, even off the back of our votes being stolen. And we are saying uMkhonto weSizwe and the people that voted uMkhonto weSizwe want to see uMkhonto weSizwe govern KZN. And that's what we're asking for. And we know that even the members within that coalition, had it been a secret vote, I can tell you now, we were going to be voted in today, and Thami Ntuli was going to be voted out.
Back to my question then, what are you going to do about it? Because you've made your grievance clear, so what do you do next?
Now that we've made our grievance clear, this is what we will do next. We're having a discussion internally. We have looked at some of the transgressions. Firstly, the police were not supposed to have come into the legislature. That's why you'll find also in the National Assembly, you have the white shirts because of these kind of things. So first and foremost, that was incorrect of the police to barge in right in the middle of a sitting, which then obviously nullified. And that's why we're also saying that this was clearly engineered and orchestrated. So that's one of the other elements that we're going to be focusing on. The other elements are going to be in terms of the procedure and how this went about, because they are now claiming that this was a vote. There is no vote. There was no mace in terms of decorum and procedure. That itself cannot be a legitimate outcome of a vote. And the other elements, obviously, we're discussing with our lawyers, and we'll obviously present that. But
so you're considering going to court?
We are going to be looking at all the instruments and legal avenues available to us to pursue this matter, having looked at the details more thoroughly.
So when you say if this had gone to a secret ballot, you believe that you would have prevailed, who promised you that they would vote with you in the ANC? How many and who?
Isn't that the whole point of a secret ballot?
Well, now that we're here, we're past that point ultimately. So at the very least, you could give me a number, if not people.
Well, I'm sure you'll agree with me that there is no vote. So until that vote happens, only then you'll reveal how many people.
What's the sensitivity around the number? I get you on the names, that's fine, but why can't you give us a number of how many people? And by the way, what sort of conversations were had to lead to them guaranteeing you or promising you that they would vote with you? What was the conversation? Where did it happen and how?
I've just shared with you the sensitivity and the danger that our members were faced with, where they were threatened in a province that is highly volatile and politically so. And you want me to now expose details that could lead to people's lives being in danger? No, I can't do that. Well, let's wait for the next vote.
So your members, who's threatening them?
The police have got that information. We've opened up a case with the Hilton police station. You're more than welcome to find out from them once they've done the investigation. But
you're the spokesperson for the party, so with due respect, you've come on the air and said your members are being threatened. I'm asking you, as a political party with elected representatives who you're telling us are facing risk, and I'm asking you in the interest of this conversation and even your party supporters who may be listening to you and I tonight, who is threatening them? And the nature of the threats. I know there was a number read out in the legislature today, but who is threatening them and what ultimately do we expect would have happened today?
I think by virtue of you saying that the number was read out, that's one thing. If you guys are serious journalists and you can do investigative journalism, you'll probably find out who that is. At this point in time, we cannot disclose details of an ongoing investigation.
Why not expose it? Is it not in your interest to expose people who are threatening your members and make it public so that ultimately you sort of call them out so that if they want to do it, you basically dare them publicly?
Well, we've done exactly that. We continued, and our members were in Parliament. We were not perturbed by these threats. We went and opened up a case, released a statement. We got the number read out. We got the message read out. That person knows who they are. And we don't have to do much more than that.
So it's one person.
We have to leave it to the police and allow the police. We have to leave it to the police. Well, can a message be sent by 10 people? One message?
Well, you never know. Maybe they were writing it together. So is it one person? Is that what you're telling me?
Then in that case, your professionalism in journalism, investigative journalism, and I know you're quite good at that, you'll probably be able to figure out some of that. And please help us and the police.
I got a compliment from you, Nhlamulo. We're making progress. So let's continue further. Let's talk about this. Are you saying it's one person who sent the threat? See, we're coming along nicely.
Well, I'm saying to you, receive the message. And Naturally, in most cases, you'll find that if a person sends you a message, a person that sends you a message, unless if you received multiple messages, then you can say it's more than one. At this point, we've said we've opened up a case. It's sitting with the police at the Hilton police station. We released a statement with the case number, and the details are there. I can't share, especially in light of the fact that we highlighted that this environment and this situation is volatile in its nature. Why would I want to compromise or put other members who wanted to probably vote with us in danger? No, we can't do that.
Is this threat coming from people within the government of provincial unity?
There's a threat.
Is it coming from people within the government of provincial unity?
That's for the police and maybe even yourself to make a determination. But what we know, there's a threat.
Let me ask you then lastly about the conduct of your members. You know, that I'm sure you've seen some of the criticism about what happened, especially at the end of the session, where ultimately there was a full-on scuffle between themselves and members of the police service. At some point, they were standing quite close. Some would even say they charged towards Premier Thami Ntuli. The Speaker of the Legislature also had difficulty leaving the chamber because there were MKP supporters members of the legislature, not just supporters, obstructing her way. Is what we saw on that score the very best of the MKP's conduct? Does the party endorse the way in which they handled the way the sitting ended?
MKP is the one party that doesn't endorse any violence. That's why you'll never find us threatening other members of other parties. 2 weeks ago, our member was killed by one of the EFFs, one of the IFP's members at Dubai Hostel. So it's always MKP members that are being killed left, right, and center from day one when we announced MKP. We've never threatened anyone, and we've never at any point will you ever hear of uMkhonto weSizwe member having killed another person because of political violence. That's the first point. Secondly, police ought to not be barging in to a sitting. Lawmakers, by virtue of them being lawmakers, are there to make a determination and to influence and implement the law.
So you don't condemn the way they conducted themselves?
So we condemn how the police handled it. We condemn how the Speaker called upon the police to enter the House when this matter could have been resolved. We just wanted to be heard by the Speaker and give her reasons in light of the dangers and the risk that our members are faced with, and others who wanted to vote democratically and with their conscience, for them to be allowed to vote, but by way of a secret ballot. But in this case, what do you expect from political rejects whose agenda is just more so blue lights and keeping the status quo and controlling the public purse, as opposed to ensuring that the will of the people actually resonates with the decisions that are taken in Parliament, including government?
Nhlamulo Ndhlela, spokesperson for the MKP, you'll tell us once the party has decided on a way forward then regarding how the sitting played out today. For now, thank you very much for your time speaking to us on the victory for the government of provincial unity in KZN tonight, where the Premier Thami Ntuli remains in place despite an MKP motion to remove him. We are waiting, by the way, to speak to Thami Ntuli, the IFP member, the leader in KZN, who is also Premier of the province. You're watching The Full View.